Good evening, welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Felcraft. Hope you're well and good, and welcome to everyone joining us live on stream today. So, we threw it out there, New Player Monday, and we said, right, okay, what we normally do here is check out various decks we've been playing against, decks that we're interested in, and break them down, see how they're built, and then play them. And today we threw it to you, and you gave us a couple of challenges, and you said, one, we want to see something with not too many legendaries in, not all the things, and then the other one was a couple of suggestions, and Druid Mill caught my eye, so let's grab Druid Mill today. So without further ado, let's take this Moonkin, this rather crazed looking Moonkin. Moonkins are Druids too, we're not going to have any anti-Moonkin prejudice as exists in World of Warcraft, and jump straight in. So, Druid Mill. What is a mill deck? So the concept of milling in card games, for those of you who are new, I'll just give you a very quick overview. It is milling through your cards is effectively, it's like the grinding of a mill. In the mill you keep a mill like a flour mill or something similar, or think of baking, you know, you put various sort of grains and things in and you grind and grind and grind, and you're feeding something in one end and something else is coming out the other. So you're feeding in grain and then flour comes out, for example. That's the traditional sense of milling. You might also mill things like metals. You can think of a conveyor belt, you know, that's maybe a kind of milling. You stick things in one end and have a production line and things come out the other. So in a card game, the concept of milling basically is drawing lots of cards, using lots of cards, and milling through your deck. So by getting through your deck more quickly, by using cards in a useful way and drawing more cards, you are going to be getting yourself towards that win condition, or towards your ample optimum game state, whatever you want it to be, a bit more quickly. So how does this deck do that? This is a Druid version of milling. We are aiming to draw cards and play cards. Let's keep it as a very basic top-line strategy for you. Milling is that. So let's see how this deck does that. Well, first up we have, in this version, we're looking at someone called Vague's version of a mill deck, by the way. Has apparently been #1 rated Druid on Hearthstone for a couple of weeks in terms of a pre-next version, and this is a Naxxramas updated version. So first, two innovates. Innovate will let us accelerate out cards more early. It can get us into cards that we want more quickly, and if worse comes to worse, it's a card that we can play that will start triggering some of our mill conditions. We'll take a look at the mill cards in a little bit, because you can then see where the milling comes from. So firstly, before we sort of jump into more, I'm going to grab in 2 Violet Teachers. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a 1/1 Violet Apprentice. So this is one concept of milling. As we play more cards, as we mill through our spells, we're going to be summoning more if we can get the Violet Teacher down. More on that story later. We can see what cards synergize and back this up as we go along. But hold that thought. If we get this on the table, play lots of spells, we're summoning lots of 1/1 minions. What could we do with those 1/1 minions to make them bigger and scarier? Well, there's plenty of things you can do with a Druid. The other thing we can use to mill is a Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Gadget. I can't quite spell gadget. It's just one of them in this deck. You could double it up to 2. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a card. So, known in Miracle Rogues, the Gadgetzan Auctioneer, he mills by whenever we play cards. Doesn't even have to be a spell. Whenever we play cards, we're then going to draw. So you can see how we're starting to build up some of this milling. How you can start playing cards and getting beneficial attacks. So, beneficial effects, beneficial attacks. Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Okay, we'll go back. Keep those 2 cards in mind, always remember those. We're going to be trying to do things that play cards, and you can see the benefits we're going to start getting. So, a couple of innovates drop in. Moonfire is the next, an interesting one. That's Moonfire dealing 1 damage. That will let us. Now, why do we have 1 Moonfire in there? Well, it will let us do some ping damage for 1. But it's a 0 mana spell. It means we can play it, and it's going to trigger our 2 mill effects. So most people know the Gadgetzan Auctioneer because it lets you draw cards, but inevitably you have to spend mana to play those cards. So Druid can mill because it can have some quite cheap cards in, or free in this case. So a Moonfire isn't a bad thing. Next up we grab a Claw. That's cheap at 1, but then it gives our hero 2 attack and 2 armor, which will let us control, reach out and control small minions, do some execute damage perhaps on others. And then an interesting card, 2 copies of Naturalize. So why is Naturalize in here? This looks, on the surface of it, and there's a couple of cards in this deck that could be quite dangerous if you're not quite used to them, so it'll be interesting to see how we play this. Destroy a minion and your opponent draws 2 cards. But you think, well, why do I want my opponent to draw 2 cards? Well, if I can destroy a big nasty minion for 1 mana, then that 2 cards is probably worth it. They're going to have to play another card. If you're playing Handlocks, Miracle Rose, for example, Vague pulls out those as examples, anything with big nasty minions, this will really, really hurt. You're taking one of their 8 mana drops and punishing them for just 1 mana. They do draw 2 cards, yes, but also if you're playing this at the same time as one of your mill cards is on the table, then you'll be drawing extra cards perhaps, or you'll be summoning extra minions onto the table, which helps you. So it's got disadvantage, but it also has advantage. So you can play it on any creature as well. It's not just playing on something that's big and nasty, like a big game hunter, for example. You only play that on a 7 or higher attack minion, but Naturalize can actually pick out and remove any minion in any situation, so you can use it in a lot of situations, and you just need to judge whether getting rid of that minion is more important to you than your opponent drawing 2 cards, and there will be a lot of situations where it probably will be, so it needs feeling through. Okie dokie. So next up we take a couple of Power of the Wild, a very versatile card. Give your minions 1/1 or summon a 3/2 Panther. So the 3/2 Panther at worst is a 2/3/2, so 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health, a nice solid option. Or buffing that minion up just a little bit could be the difference between, say, keeping a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, your Violet Teacher, or perhaps one of your tokens that you summon, your 1/1 mages that you summon with your Violet Teacher every spell you cast. So multiple uses there. Wrath, depending on where you come from. Standard Druid, early game control, will let you draw cards, will also let you deal 3 damage and pick off some of those more nasty minions as well. So good early game control, pretty much the same as you use Wrath in most places. So next up we are going to grab a couple of, and this is where our token synergy starts coming into play, Savage Roar. So you may have seen earlier we dropped the Violet Teacher, and for every spell we play we summon a 1/1 Violet Apprentice. Now what happens if we then drop a Savage Roar? If we play loads of spells and we've got a Violet Teacher and let's say all 3, 4, 5 Violet Apprentices on the table, and we give all of those Violet Apprentices plus 2, they're suddenly 3/1 rather than 1/1. Now the Savage Roar Force of Nature combo is known as a Druid finisher, so we can Savage Roar along with our Violet Teacher. So there is another little combo for you. Get the tokens out, buff them up with a Savage Roar. So a couple of those in, all well and good. Now next we have another Druid staple as seen in a bunch of decks. Let's grab 2 Keeper of the Grove, and this, if you've seen our other Druid run-throughs, you use it for the 2 damage to pick off minions, weaken minions for trades, or the silence is invaluable. You can use it on the attack to get through tanks, you can use it on a defensive way to remove nasty abilities from your opponent's cards. So the sort of generally versatile card makes it in. A couple of swipes, 4 damage to an enemy, 1 damage to all others. This will let you, against aggro decks, remove lots of Murlocs. Single health minions can just get annihilated by this, or you could actually go and reach out and remove bigger minions with the swipe too. So again, attack your opponent to the face, do 1 damage across the board to small minions, or swipe a big minion for 4 and then do some other token damage for removals as well. 2 of those. Next up we have the Druid of the Claw, known in various Watcher Druids, known in tanky other Druids, known in ramp Druids. Reason this card's so solid, again, it can be tweaked as most Druids can, depending on your situation. Would you rather have a tank, which is 4 attack 6 health, pretty solid, or would you rather have a charging 4/4 to try and pick something nasty off the table? Well, you can choose. And for that reason, it really gives you a very solid mid-game, regardless of whether you want to be on the attack or maybe going on the defence. For that reason, it lets you pivot your deck, and it makes it 1 Starfall, 5 to a minion, 2 damage to all minions. Well, what do you have there again? Note that this is more mid-game control. With the mid-game control, you can be strafing 2 damage for all enemy minions, which is great if you're playing aggro decks, zoo decks, and similar. And then 5 damage to a minion that can be used to pick off all sorts of nasty big minions. So that is pretty handy to control either flip of the coin, either way that it goes. Next up we have a Force of Nature. So I keep on calling it, yeah, I did call it Force of Nature. So that was our combo with Savage Roar. Summon 3 2/2 treants with charge that die at the end of the turn, so this is another win condition, finish condition for us. If we can play Force of Nature and Savage Roar for 9 mana, that will give us 3 5/2 minions with charge, and it will also give our Druid hero 3 40 minions, that's 4 8 12 damage, and then with our Druid hero 14 damage. So Force of Nature and Savage Roar for 9 mana gives you 14 damage. Providing there are no tanks or anything like that, that is effectively an execute win condition for 14. So 14 is quite an important number for your opponent's health. If they don't have any tanks and you have Force of Nation, Savage Roar, you win. So good to know your numbers. Just one of those. And then finally, interesting choice, 2 Ancient of Law. Draw 2, restore 5, or drawing the cards will let you play them. Restoring the 5 health keeps you in the fight until you can get your win condition down. And then last but not least, it is a 5/5 combo card, so you can do some trading, you can do some damage with that as well. Next up, we then have a few more cards to grab, and we're going to grab some of the neutrals. Now this is a card, I always say, a double-edged sword. So the Cold Light Oracle, this will let you try and get further ahead. Seen in some decks such as the Miracle Rogue and similar in the past, but you basically need to grab this and throw it down. Drawing the cards, you need to be able to play them, and ideally if you're going to draw the cards you need to be able to play them quick to get yourself ahead, so that your opponent's 2-card advantage that they get doesn't come up too nastily. So your opponent drawing 2 cards, not great. You drawing 2 cards, of course, good, but you need to play this at a time where it's going to give you benefit to get further ahead. Be careful. That can make or break a game. And then another card to sort of get ahead a bit, sort of, or helping with the milling, is Dancing Swords. Now again, by throwing this down in the early game, we can do some trades. We can put some more pressure on the table nice and early. Yep, Death Rattle, our opponent does draw a card. Now also remember, with your Cold Light Oracle, if you stuff your opponent's hands full of cards, the other sort of concept of mill is that not only can you mill your own deck, and milling can be drawing and playing, drawing lots of cards, playing lots of cards. Milling can also be drawing lots of cards and discarding lots of cards. A mill can just be running through your deck, however. So you can mill your opponent's deck as well here by cramming their hand full, and this is where some of these cards come in. It's the other side of mill. So Dancing Swords stuffs a card into your opponent's hand. Cold Light Oracle also stuffs your opponent's hands full of cards, and King Mukla, which we'll come on into a second, puts another 2 cards in your opponent's hand. So if you're playing these early enough, you get an early advantage. You stuff your opponent's hands full of cards, and then you force your opponent to start discarding cards. That is just as important an option, or as important a concept. So trying to make your opponent discard is pretty handy too. Obviously they're going to be losing stuff, and you can see what they're having to discard as well. So that's the 2 different sides of mill. One of them is you discarding, your opponent discarding, and you drawing. The other is sort of you drawing and you playing. So it's generally getting through your cards, making you go through your cards, or your opponent go through their cards. So that's this side of mill. 2 Dancing Swords in. Next up we have the King. Do I have King Mukla? I do not think I do, and this is a miss. King Mukla wanders Jaguar searching for love. The Battle Cry, that is a mill out element. Now Mukla is great because he's strong in the early game, 3 attack, 3 mana for a 5/5, but giving your opponent those 2 bananas. Now bananas of course is a 1 mana 1/1 buff, so quite decent, but the bananas force your opponent's hand to be more full. So Mukla is a bit of a loss here. We would like a Mukla, so we need to have a think and see what we can swap out Mukla for. So we probably need to have a swap for that, so we'll work out what we can swap for a Mukla. But Mukla helps the mill on both sides. We've got the Violet Teachers, we've got the Gadgetzan Auctioneers, so we need a final card to replace King Mukla. So we need something that's an early threat, or something that stuffs our opponent's hand full of more cards. Now there aren't too many things that put cards in your opponent's hand, but there are plenty of things that will help us grab control of the early game, I feel. So what can we grab that helps our opponent stuff cards into hand, or helps us mill through a bit more quickly? Here's an interesting option. I'm thinking maybe throwing in a Questing Adventurer or a Shade of Nexramas. The reasons for those is because they'll sit on the table and just build up as a threat, which could be quite nasty. Well, another option is something like a Twilight Drake that could be very awkward because we're going to have a lot of cards in our hand when we're going to aim to. So if we have a lot of cards in our hand, then that will be nice and awkward as well for our opponent to deal with. Okay, we need to find a Mukla replacement. I'm going to have a little ponder if you folks have any suggestions. Two Savage Rules for more supplies anywhere for the Black Knight or Cenarius. Cenarius is quite slow. Black Knight, remove, cut, Azure Drakes. Oh, they're all very old sort of tweaks. Oldie tweaks. Alternatively, something nice and aggressive at 3 mana that really stacks the pressure on your opponent. I'm going to drop in a Shade of Nax. Now, it doesn't fulfil the mill requirement. Obviously, it's not stuffing the hand quite full like Mukla. But what it is doing is making sure that you've got something that your opponent's just going to be worrying about. Okay, let's give this a go. So that's the first bit of our New Player Monday, where we have grabbed a new deck. We've taken a look at what it does. What we're going to do next is throw ourselves into the game and see how it plays. Now, I'm going to jump into a couple of casual mode games, and I always recommend that you give casual a go because you don't have anything to lose. So let's call this Mill Deck Set, and Mukla would be absolutely excellent. And we can try how this goes. If we don't like the Mukla replacement, we can always swap something out for the next game. So let's see if we can get this milling concept going in a nice nothing to lose environment. Into casual mode we go. Yeah, it's 2 days to go and I'm still at rank 10.
Malfurion versus Uther. I will fight with honor. I must protect the wild.
So let's jump on in. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, we are playing a paladin. Interesting. Okay, so if they're going to be rushing or similar or aggroing, we need some board control, and we need to try and control as much as possible. So keeping Moonfire is good. I like some of these early game options. It's been the law, and if they are rushing, I think that we need to get early game control. So we want positive trades. I think Dancing Swords is a good option. I'm happy with the Keeper of the Grove. I'm also happy with Power of the Wild. So that will let us control the early game minions. We need removal, we need board control, and then from that good things will come. Now remember, with our goal, we're trying to keep control in the early to mid game, and until we can get our mill conditions out, we then start milling their hand, we start running through ours, and then getting ourselves in a position where we can hopefully Savage Roar at the end of the game. So I'm not going to be coining into anything too early. I'm not going to be moonfiring either, because I've got the coin, because I'm going second. I'm going to see what the turn 2 play is, and then let's take it from there. Good evening, welcome to those of you just joining us. We're taking a look at Mill Druid, and we're seeing how the mill's going. Okay, so this is probably an aggro. We've got an Arabian Egg on the table. I can just silence that and make it a non-threat with my Keeper of the Grove. He's not going to be attacking me for anything too early. Power of the Wild gives him a Panther that he may remove. I'm going to just get myself armoured up for the time being. I think dropping the Panther would have been an equally solid play. I can set up my mill here. I've got Dancing Swords next turn. I could have coined into a Dancing Swords for a really aggressive and nasty turn 2 play too. And there we go. So we actually have a Tauren Warrior as well, which will be good to remove. I can really start milling as soon as hands get full. I need to be playing my cards and getting them on the table. So can I remove? I can Moonfire. That's not really going to remove. Coining into a Keeper of the Grove will help me start making positive trades. I'm going to start going, I think, for This is good, but then I'm giving him more cards, so I can offer him some trades. I'm going to offer him the trade with the Dancing Swords, and let's see if we can feel our way. So, getting that Dancing Swords out, I could have silenced this, I could have silenced this, the True Silver, just gives him the straight trade and lets him draw. But then, hopefully if his hand gets full, then I can start really burning through his cards. So, not ideal. I'm still going to take some damage from that. I'm going to go into the silence this turn as well. Druid of the Claw. I'm going to drop this down and silence a minion. Do I silence the egg or do I silence the Tauren? I think he's going to remove me next turn anyway. So I think between those two, I'm going to silence the egg. Just gives him effectively a useless minion there now. Oh, okay, right. That would have been nice to silence. There goes the removal. So already we have Paladin with Thaddeus. Thaddeus Paladin. That's going to be interesting. Right, what do we want to do? Well, in this case, we probably want to get some tanks out. And remember, we need to try and keep some table control. When his hand's full, I can start milling. I think for the time being, I'm going to start throwing up tanks. Bear. So he now doesn't have his sword of omens. Well, here's a True Silver champion. Down goes a secret. When a minion dies, give another 3/2. Straight up silence. He's just going to stop charging in for attack now. Now obviously he's looking for Fugan and Stalag to die, so Thaddeus is summoned. I think in this case, now do I start milling him? No, if I give him a full hand that's not going to benefit me. So we're not going to do it, simple. The Claw Druid, that gives me +2 and a taunt. Do I want to be coining into anything more aggressively? Well, next turn I can just restore my health anyway. I've still got my options. I can still claw. Moonfire lets me just remove 1 health to remove something else. I can coin into a Power of the Wild, which will make my tank more nasty, or I can summon the 3/2 Panther. Now the 3/2 Panther will give me the ability to perhaps make a trade. So for that reason, we're just going to pop that off the table. Yep, I thought it would be avenged, give him random for any minion 3/2, and okay, he's got an aggressive egg, but at least that's not going to summon a Newbie when it dies, although it's almost as powerful as. So kind of hard to play around that secret avenge, one of the new Naxxramets. What does militant? I mean, mill is a mill deck. Militant is a word. I'm making bad puns. I do apologise. Okay, back to the more present business. Echoing Ooze with Blessing of Kings is going to be cloned into 2 5/6 oozes. Very nasty Paladin combo. So we are now not going to be churning through. This aggro deck is doing very nicely. And I'll be not going to lie, this is quite scary. So Wrath will let us certainly remove Fugan. We're going to have to get rid of that, I think. I'm not going to be able to heal up. I'm not also going to be able to trade those 2 off the table. Cold Lighting, I think, will just give him more options at this point in time. So if I claw, Moonfire, if I claw into a Druid and then Moonfire, I can at least remove 1 of these. And then I can heal back another 5, but remember that we're already through 2 tanks. So what this deck can struggle, I mean aggro against Zoo or against very aggro decks, this can have a little challenge. It's with any Druid deck, it's keeping control in the early game. Down goes his Guardian of Kings, he's in a very solid position now. Savage Roar, that's great. I've had a bunch of minions. I've not seen my mill conditions. I've seen neither the Gadgets and Auctioneer nor my Violet Teacher. I can start Battle Crying to draw cards now. I can Ancient of Lore just to get myself healed up, which is probably going to have to be the option here, I feel. That will hopefully let me trade something away. So we've not managed to get early game control. Paladin, we saw with the Blessing of Kings, many good buffs. Managed to get the buff down on the Echoing Ooze for a very, very strong trade. Now look at this board, it's going to be very hard for us to get back, even if we get our combo out. And Innovative's not going to do huge amounts, so we can start playing desperation cards here. Maybe playing this earlier. Now, see, I do get a Violet Teacher, but at the moment he has lethal, and I can't trade that away with anything I have on the table. So I'm just going to play through so we can show you some milling in action, drawing cards. What can we do? Right, there is more than enough on the table there. I can't put any tanks down. I can armor up by 1. There's still 15 damage on the deck. I can remove this, which will then put him to 14 damage if I armor up. It's going to be a very close run thing. I think he'll probably have a lethal, but let's try for it anyway. I could deal 1 damage and draw, but that's probably not going to benefit me hugely. I have to remove damage off the table, ergo this. And then really just doing this to get ourselves armoured up, but we know that there's 14 damage there with a huge amount of cards in hand. I refuse to believe he doesn't have something that will let him do that last one. So we've seen a little bit of this deck not quite in action that first game. We'll play another game after this and see if we can get it working a little bit better. We didn't have the Violet Teacher out early. Against aggro, this deck may struggle a little bit, but you need to draw your control cards and conditions, and we do have a fair few. There we go, and we just need that, yep, consecrate. Okay, so let's see if we can get a bit of a better example of this deck in action. What we saw is some of the weaknesses, which is never a bad thing. Let's see if we can show you the strengths. Okie dokie, so what are we going for this time? Well, we have a mage. So against mages, what are we looking to do? I think we're just trying to play a match as normal, really. They're going to be maybe aggro, they may be doing secrets and similar things, but we just need to get our conditions in place. So we've got a Violet Teacher and a Gadget Zan. I do feel as though that sort of trading for some more early game options would be solid. Tempting to hold on to the Gadget Zan. I think what we're going to try and do is, let's try keeping it. We've got the coin, we can get this out turn 3 if we need. And actually we've drawn into not too bad at options there. So we can aggressively Cold Light Oracle and try and take an aggressive stance from the off. Get lots of cards out in the early game, see if we can then start milling with our Gadget Zan Auctioneer. Okie dokie. So, turn 1, let us do this. Down goes an Undertaker, we're seeing a Secret Sea Mage, I do feel. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Well, coining out Power of the Wild, getting that under control would be nice. It's very aggressive to coin into a Wrath. So that most that can probably get buffed is 1-1 next turn, I would imagine. I want to keep the coin. Do I want to coin out a Cold Light? Or I'd probably just Wrath into something next go. I can offer them the trade. With the Panther, that would be pretty aggressive play, but I kind of like to coin into the Teacher as well. I'm going to tap on the table and see if we can afford to wait this additional turn. Let's see how that goes. Have you thought about adding music to the stream? I have thought about it. I need to understand how it works with copyright. Obviously, if I can add music to the stream, but then any music I add to the stream, I probably won't be able to put on YouTube afterwards, for example. So that's the main thing, you know. You know, if you guys have actually got anything, I've seen a few bits and bobs as to how it can and can't work. So yeah, if you guys have ideas or things you'd like to see, yeah, we can always try that. Okay, I'm going to then just Wrath. Let's get that off the table. And next turn we can coin into a Violet Teacher, see if that really draws some ear and aggression. But yeah, something we can absolutely try. If you guys think some music would be good, let's give it a go. Welcome Gonzola123. It's great to have you with us. So we have been controlling and counter-controlling. You know, at this stage in the game, our mage, I would probably say, is behind, so we can start throwing out the threats. Now, I was going to coin into a teacher. I couldn't wait for my opponent's hand to get a bit more full. I want to start getting my cards down ASAP, so I'm happy to go into a Dancing Swords. Now note that I've got my Cold Light Oracle in hand, I've got my Gadget Stand Auctioneer for me to draw cards, I've got my Violet Teacher, I've got my coin, I've got Moonfire for a cheap free spell. And there we go, there's the Coin and Fire Blast, so he's going all out in terms of control. He does draw that card, but now he's got 6 in hand, so if I wait for his hand to fill more, then I'm going to be in a very nice position. So I'm going to Violet Teacher. Now I can really start the aggressiveness on the mill, so I could Moonfire and coin and I can start drawing with that. So let's see how they react to this. So this is where us milling through our deck can start to come into play. I'm quite excited to see how this is going to work out. We may well be able to get a very nice example of this deck going. Okie dokie. So I'm feeling in quite a decent position here. Reason for that is if you look at our hand, we've got Savage Roar, we've got Force of Nature. If we get a Savage Roar on top, down goes the Water Elemental. He will start using that to control, down goes the Mana Worm. So we're starting to see some of the nasty mage cards coming out. Now I can go for an attacking play. Swipe will let me effectively remove this. I don't care too much if this is frozen. What I don't want is it removed off the table, period. So Moonfire will let me drop one of these down 1. Again, I don't mind too much, so I need to play this carefully. I can get 1 with this. I can then get, if I coin in, I can do 5. But I can't quite remove it. Very awkward amount of health that. With the Moonfire I can do 6. Okay. I think that's going to be the play. A very aggressive removal of this Water Elemental without having my Violet Teacher touched. So how we'll do this is we'll coin in first. Now note that that spawns us the additional and we can start doing the milling. There we go, there's 1 in there. I can then go for a swipe, and note with that swipe, zing, I draw another, and so we mill more. Lovely. Next I can then grab my Shapeshift. And of course I am going to freeze my Druid here, but I don't mind that too much. And then I can Moonfire. And note with the Moonfire, again just 1 damage, but you can see that I can pick that off. And then finally, working out the plays nice and slowly, I can only take 1 damage to my Violet Apprentice. So why is there a Moonfire in this deck, says Gonzola? Well, I've shown a very situational use for it just there. I think the main thing is that it's free and that it's a 1 ping damage that triggers the Auctioneer and the Violet Teacher, but it could well be replaced by something a lot stronger. There are other options you could go for. It's not compulsory. You're quite right. Good question from Gonzola there. Does it have to be in there? The simple answer is no, it doesn't. Okay, so Mage Secrets, what could this be? Well, it could be Vaporize if we attack the hero, it could be Mage Armor, all kinds of things. The opponent's hand is not so full that we're going to start causing massive troubles. Now I can start increasing the swarm. What I really want is a Savage Roar to start doing insane amounts of damage. But I think for the time being, Gadget Stand Auctioneer would set me up well. I don't have huge amounts of spells. Do I need the card draw to mill? That would be good. Since this is a good shout, would it be a good idea to add Law Walker Cho? I'm going to have to remind myself of Law Walker Cho, and I'm going to finish my turn to start with. Let us contemplate that. We have actually dropped the King Mukla, to your point, Gonzola, so there is something else that we could well drop in. Okay, best play here. Gadgetzan really sets me up for some excellent pressure and offers him multiple threats. The Druid gives me protection to my current table position. I'm going to take a risk. In fact, now I'm going to get further ahead, and I'm going to go for the slightly conservative. I'm going to drop a cat form and try and trigger this secret. A mirror entity, ooh, nasty. Okay, well that means that he can then do some removal. He'll probably go for the Violet Teacher, I'm guessing. So let's go through our play. Should be able to, whenever a player casts a spell, copy into the other player's hand. Yes, true actually, that would be Mega Mill. That would be really interesting to do. It would certainly, if we could stuff the opponent's hand, that would really give Turbo Mill. It would be, I think this deck at the moment, if you take a look at the list on the right hand side, Gonzola, it's a little bit more focused around us milling our own cards in terms of getting beneficial effects from playing lots of cards. Dropping Law Walker Cho in does mill, but then it makes you focus, as you clearly identified, more on making your opponent discard cards. So subtle difference. Give your opponent a bunch of Moonfires. Yep, strong option. Just tell you what, we should totally give that a go. I think that sounds loads of fun. What I would probably do is redesign this deck a bit so that there's a bit more pressure involved. Oh, you said a use for Moonfire. Here's a use for Moonfire. I want to Moonfire that Druid of the Claw. Okay, so Force of Nature. Right, okay, well, for 7/7, I'm not in the best position to start getting everything out of the way. Destroy a minion and my opponent draws 2. That puts him on 6, so then Cold Light, that puts him on 9. Naturalize, if I Gadgetzan into a Naturalize, that puts me in a more beneficial position. So let's try Naturalize. Is it worth it on this occasion? There we go. Now I get a card draw from that, so I can then Claw. And with my Claw, you can see that I'm turboed up. Lovely stuff. 2 attack this turn and 2 armour. Now I'm actually going to take the damage on the chin here, meaning that I can swarm forward. Now note the horrible, horrible options that I have next go. My opponent has 7 cards in hand. I can get them to discard some. If they draw a bunch more, I'm in a good position to start forcing my opponent to discard, whereas my hand is lower. So this is reasonably strong. However, I may just bring out all of these nasty tanks that I'm going to have to fight my way through. And another secret. Okay, certainly slowing things down. Innovate gives me options to coin things out. Force of Nature will let me charge through this, no problem, but I would like to use that as a finisher. Let's see what options we have. Power of the Wild, give my minions 1/1. That could be very nice in this situation. I may well go for some of that. Okay, right, so let us firstly Power of the Wild. All my minions 1/1. We now have a 5/5 Druid of the Claw, beautiful. Oh, and 2 innovates. How poetic. Now this is where the sort of miracle Druid comes in, and this is our deck working a bit more like we like it to. So do I want to do anything else? Well, I could innovate into Cold Lights, but you see my opponent's got 5 cards. I'd only be getting them to discard 1. We'll leave that for the time being. Firstly, let's see if we can try and play around this secret and see what we can grab out. There we go. Duplicate. Okay, so now we know that's a duplicate. We know there'll be lots of Sludge Belchers coming down next turn. Do I have lethal? I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We do not quite have it, so I'm going to get our opponent quite close, and we're going to have to start playing quickly. Oh, did I miss a play there? What was I thinking that Wrath... fail play. That's a fail play. I was thinking that Wrath did 3. Well, we know there's probably a polymorph, but we know that our opponent has 2 Sludge Belchers, so we're in a very delicate position. Fireball, it can Fireball and Sludge Belcher. There we go, and that is exactly what came in. Now here is where we would absolutely love a Think Brain, a Keeper of the Grove. Would it have been better to innovate first on the off chance the secret was counterspell? Yes, it would, Gonzola. And also, if I'd played Power of the World later, I would have got better. I should have played the Force of Nature first, because then I could have buffed my Treants from 2-2 to 3-3 as well. So looking back at that play, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Innovating first would have been a smarter play, because it would have let me not only try and play around the secret, but it would have also meant that I could have perhaps given, if I played I think Force of Nature first, it would have let me buff the Treants with the Power of the World. Is it GG? I don't think it's quite GG. We need to see. We can charge in there. In fact, is it GG? I think it is. Okay, let's work this out. If I charge in with Cat and do a Wrath, yeah, it is good game. Just need to make sure we make the plays in the correct order. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. Go, go. Well played. Whew. Lovely stuff. So there we go. That is a nice example of that. We will sneak in just one final game and see if we can make this do some stuff for us. So there was a nice example of how we can make it work a little bit better for us. So what we managed to grab there was put bunches of pressure on. Okay, so what are we playing now? A Paladin. We played a Paladin first time round. Okie dokie dokie. You play fast when the moves don't matter as much, and you nearly get roped at lethal. That's kind of true. I should play slow when the move. Yeah. Swipe. Swipe, swipe. Okay, right, well, we just need a full mulligan. I think their swipe is not going to help us, and we're going first. So what we really need is some nice aggressive early game control. Okie dokie, let us see. Ooh, we are playing someone who has Doge in their name. Oh, well met, how kind. Oh, I almost said well played, that would have been a little bit trollo. Okay, right, we've got an Innovate, we've got a Keeper, we've got Swipe. Okay, I feel pretty strong with that. The Innovate happily makes up for us going first. If they do start throwing things out, we can Innovate into a Swipe, we can Innovate into a Keeper for a Silence or a 2 damage. So that might be interesting. Okie dokie, so our turn one. Nothing from our opponent so far. Double Innovate. We could go for a real nasty Druid of the Claw play, but I think that's hyper aggressive. Considering our opponent hasn't showed any hand yet, we can always Innovate into Druid of the Claw next turn and get ourselves in a really strong table position. It seems to me that the only way you ever be able to mill your opponent is if they're hand locked. Doesn't seem like a lot of situations where the mill effect comes in. I get you, Gonzola. So I think that's a very, very fair point. What I would probably say is let's just see what happens here. Now I know that milling, like in the traditional card sense of mill, is making your opponent discard. So I think that the mill here is kind of, yeah, it is that a little, like that mill, but there's also a bit of sort of rapid turbo card draw, whatever you'd like to call it. And I know that technically to, you know, if you play paper card games or other card games for a while, that's not technically milling. So I think that the word mill in this sense is used more in a term of charge through your cards, rather than perhaps forcing your opponent to discard or discarding loads yourself. But yeah, you're quite correct. Like if they're a hand lock or similar, then there's a lot of milling that you can do. Okay, so I can go out with a Swipe. Now that Sword of Justice is going to mean that lots of nasty things are going to get big quick. I can't remove that weapon, I don't have weapon removal. The Keeper of the Grove, I think I'd rather save for a rainy day. I've got double swipes here. So I think really in this turn it may feel like a waste of 2 mana, but what I'm going to do is I will force my opponent to draw. I don't mind our Paladin having a big hand. Remember that Paladins have Divine Favour, which lets them draw up to the amount of cards in their opponent's hand. So I kind of don't mind my opponent having a huge hand, and in fact if I was to draw the mill cards at the moment I would play them, because we can see he's sitting on 8 cards. I could really force him to start discarding, and milling is from the Magic the Gathering card Millstone, which lets you draw cards and reshuffle your deck. The Pokemon card for that was called Professor Oak. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 7 cards. But it also had Professor Elm, which was discard your hand and draw 7 cards. And both in Pokemon were sort of semi-known as milling, but you're quite right, it would have probably, you know, I've no doubt that a lot of card game terms come from Magic the Gathering. I'm a funny one because I started playing Magic a little bit after I played some other card games. So to me I've seen these things before, but not in Magic. Okay. We see a very nasty Sword of Justice dropping down there, and seeing all of the buffs, all of the trades, all of the Murlocs becoming big and nasty. Let's just quickly review that turn. So Abusive Sergeant makes the Murloc. We can trade off a Claw Druid in pretty much 2. Very, very nasty. Takes some damage with his hero, by even attacking with that Sword of Justice, and he's left with 2 quite powerful minions. Happily, we have control options on the table. So I may just swipe these. It feels like a tad of a waste. In fact, let's go for this option instead. Let's Moonfire with the Keeper. Let's just drop it down, and then I could be innovating into a 3-drop. That's going to give him another awkward choice. Now he may well decide between these 2 to discard that, but then that will cost him quite a bit of health. Saving the Innovate could have been an option. I'm kind of saying to him, look, do you want to take full damage from me next turn, or do you want to go out to control this? Now look, he's maybe trying to mill me. Interesting. Okay, so hang on, he's on 3/7. And there goes the 3/3 Oracle. He now, unless he has something... shuffle your graveyard into your deck. There were some other Pokemon recycling cards. We'll have to play the Pokemon training card game one day. And there goes the 5/2, and he's going for the face, which is an interesting option. Going to down buff. He is going to try and outrun me. Yes, I think that hitting me in the face probably wasn't the best plan in the world. So we can start swiping and getting nice and aggressive now. I'm not going to Oracle him just yet. If this died, I would consider it, because we're going to be forcing him to discard cards. So for the time being, what am I going to do? I think with this 6 mana, Power of the Wild buffs me up, will let me start trading some of these away. That could be a nice option. Power of the Wild and Swipe, in fact, I think we're going to go for. So we can do that. Swipe will let us trade this. Remove 1. And I'm going to take a 3... or should I just go for face? What do you reckon? For high progressive control or face? I think I'm going to go for face. Let's just really put the pressure on here. So you can see by turn 6 already we're in a good position. Pally's on 9. He's not quite in his lay on hands big heal territory. Now he can decide to start trading, and then I can Cold Light for options. I do have a swipe. I've got lethal next turn in a couple of different fashions. I can Claw Druid if I need to, but it all depends on how much of my damage he removes off the table. Swipe plus HP was better, says Lud. Swipe and hero power. Yes, true. Swiping for the hero power might have been a good plan. Down come the Murlocs for clearing the board. He's looking to get the rush in before I get the rush in. Now what he will need to do is trade these. He's gone for it with a card draw. Probably going to remove this as well, I shouldn't wonder. In comes a coin for a 2-drop. And we can see a double trade there. Ironby Cowl removes the effect, meaning that it drops down to a 2/4, and there goes the trade. So he just about ends up with a good table position. Now, oh, if only I had... do I have it? I have... No, I don't have quite enough for a lethal. Let's do the maths. I can put down a Claw Druid for 4. I can then buff up to 6/8 on one short of a lethal. Swipe 4, swipe and raw. Again, that will give me 2 swipe raw. Cold Light Oracle, and the Ancient of Lore will let me turbo in a lot further. Now I could Cold Light, but I think that's accelerating me into nothing at this point in time. So going for some control feels like a good option. I'm going to keep the pressure on with Cat Form, and I'm going to play into one of his bigger threats myself, because I still do have the Savage Roar that I can go in with. So here is sort of a dilemma. Now we know that we've got a lot of aggression to go to face with, and that goes the 5, that will be trading our cat away. Down goes Mukla, so you can see he's almost playing a bit of a mill himself here. A mill Paladin, Blessing of Wisdom, will mean that he draws cards. Mukla goes down, starts filling my hand. He's trying to mill me as well. If I had a Mukla, I would go for similar. So I need something that charges, or I need my Savage Roar for the win. Now you can see that I'm actually getting kind of low on health here. Whenever someone in the chat says no, I do wonder if I missed a lethal. Okay, so swipe is going to kind of remove things from the deck. Drawing the cards or restoring the health. Restoring the health means you can swing into me. Why didn't I hit him? I did hit him. Oh, hit him for 1. Yeah, that would have put me down to the 4 next turn. That's a good point, Lid. Yeah, I should have tapped him for 1 to the face rather than controlled the minion. Yeah, swiping hero power. Very, very true. People in the chat reminded me of Miss Lethals since 2013. But it's a good call. Yeah, if I tapped him for that 1, then we would have had a win this game. Okay, is it worth restoring the 5? Or is it worth controlling the table even more? He still wins now. How do I still win now? Yes, I do. Quick. 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 Oh. That was close. I almost missed that lethal. There you go. Paralysed by indecision. Okay, well thank you very much folks. So that is it for tonight's slightly longer than a Hearthstone half hour, but what we did there was for our New Player Monday we took a deck that we've seen a bit of. I'll be honest, I'd not played huge amounts of that. I'd seen a little bit in action, so oh. So, thank you so much for tuning in. You always get roped at the easiest lethals. Yeah, I probably do, because I'm sitting there staring at it and then looking at the chat. And similar. Plus Failcraft. Trying to multitask. Streamers like myself should probably be a bit better at it, eh? So thanks for tuning in. We took a look, and I've linked it in the chat, and if you're watching on YouTube we will link it there too. We took a look at Vague's version of a Miracle stroke token stroke mill-ish deck. We then built it, we had a look through it, and then we took it into action. We had a loss against an aggro din, we then had a nice win, and then we came up against another paladin that was quite aggressive and managed to see the other side of the coin where, having got hammered a bunch, we then managed to jump in and enjoy it. So thank you for tuning in. If you have joined us for the first time, whether it be on YouTube or be somewhere else, then we do this 5 nights a week. Not always new player decks. Mondays is New Player Monday, where we do this kind of thing. Tuesday is pick your own arena. You pick your arena and then we get stuck in and see how it goes. You pick the hero on Twitter, you then pick the cards live on stream. Wednesday we do ladder, take a look at what we're playing and what other people are playing too, wherever we are on the ladder. Thursday tends to be tactics or something a little bit different, sort of a little bit more tactical intermediate, for as much as I can preach about that. And Friday is Fun Friday. We play other games, we play fun Hearthstone, we take suggestions from you, silly challenges, and do silliness. So you can see us if you're on YouTube. Come and watch us live. This has all been live, twitch.tv/FelcroftCast. Monday through Friday, UK time. You can see the times roughly there. It's going to be changing from British summertime soon. We've got Pacific and East Coast as well. And then we'll always be tweeting on FelcroftCasts, like the YouTube link there, @FelcroftCasts. So follow on Twitter, and then you can see when we're going to go live. We'll always try and tweet as long in advance as possible so you can plan your times, because we know a bunch of you are from the US, welcome, or whether you're an hour ahead in Europe or other places in the world. I think the best we had was Australia, which was a very random time. And then if you are live, youtube.com/FelcroftCast, over 100. Hi, and thanks to you folks for supporting us all that time. Over 100 episodes of Hearthstone Half Hour, some better than others. There have been some wins, some fails, some terrible misses of Luthors, but all in good fun. And then the website is felcroft.org, and on that website you can find some articles, little bits of news, not really a news website, but we tend to put all of our videos there, and then also things that don't live so well in a video, so sometimes deck lists, sometimes just sort of discussions, other things as well, so check that out. We will be back tomorrow for Pick Your Own Arena, so you will be able to check out the classes that we'll be picking tomorrow. I'm just going to quickly see, are we in the middle of arena or have we lost one? Oh, let's see what tomorrow's, we'll finish this episode and see what tomorrow's arena will be. Tomorrow you can choose from Hunter, Rogue or Paladin, so I'll stick that out on Twitter tonight and tomorrow. Vote on Twitter, tweet @FelcroftCast with what you fancy, and then whatever you guys pick, we will be streaming and picking the deck. You will be voting to pick the cards tomorrow night. So thank you for tuning in, hopefully see you soon, and as always, if you've liked it, please do share it. We love sharing, having fun with other people, having more people joining in the chat. If you didn't like it, let us know what we can improve. We know it's not for everyone, and I'm not the best player in the world, so feel free to criticise my player. Why not come and join in live on a stream? You can help me and help everyone who's watching too. Much appreciated. So have a great night. See you soon.